Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's Christina from Our Wood Home. In today's video I'm going to be showing you my harvest gardens. At the time of filming it was end of August, beginning of September, I can't remember exactly. So things pretty much look the same as they do presently, but I'm sure we'll see a lot of changes over the next few weeks. So enjoy this video. I'm going to try to film, but there's a lot of noise outside today, so hopefully you can hear me okay. Alright, so this is one of the planters around my patio. It looks rough. I'll explain everything. So this section is where I had planted some parsnip, and only one actually germinated. So I've just been putting weeds that I'm pulling out in this section. Over here I did have a quite a large squash plant. I think I actually had two. They were two different types of zucchini and they were doing really well. I had some tomatoes kind of stuck in there, so they're all warped and twisted from not being properly supported, but we have tomatoes. Anyways, so I had the squash plants. They were doing great, but they also succumbed to the squash vine borer. So I pulled those out and burned the plants because if I were just to let them keep growing until they just die over the course of a few days, then I'm risking the borers being able to reach full maturity and just continuing this cycle in the following year. So I pulled them out. I did get a fair bit of zucchini though. Of course, there's a ton of dill everywhere. I've got some lettuce here. I'm pretty sure it's all bolted. Maybe I planted a little bit too much, but it was delicious. And I think I'm just going to try to let them all go to seed so that I can save the seeds for next year. And there's some more lettuce in there. Over here, I've got 3 eggplant plants. I don't think they'll actually produce any fruit. They're very slow growing, which is strange. Maybe that's normal actually. I'm not sure. I've never grown them before. But I followed the planting instructions on the package and they've just been really slow. So maybe next year I'll just start the seeds indoors earlier. This is a droopy snow pea plant. I'm not sure why it didn't latch on to the lattice, but it didn't. It's producing pretty well. There's a lot that I need to still pick off of here. Next to it is scarlet runner bean, which is quite bushy, and another snow pea plant. I had planted a bunch of peas and beans across here, just mixed peas and beans that were loose in my seed storage, and the only one that actually took was this yellow wax bean, and I have only 2 beans, but I'm just going to let them dry out and save them for seeds. This is a cucumber plant. I've got a few more on this side. I had really hoped to have a cucamelon plant because I did sow quite a few of them, but none of them germinated. I'm pretty sure these are going to be on their last legs. I definitely overwatered these plants, so the cucumbers turned out pretty odd looking, and these are pickling cucumbers, so I didn't end up pickling any of the odd looking ones. I just cut them up for my chickens. This is the other planter. I'm going to try not to film my neighbor's house just for their privacy, but they are pretty close. So lots of tomatoes in here. I think I did 10 plants in here and they've done pretty well. I think the reason they're doing so well is because I had put a bunch of chicken manure in here in early spring. So it just put a ton of nutrients in. We have had some hornworms on the tomatoes, but it hasn't been too bad. So lots of tomatoes. These are the tomatoes that we'll just be eating fresh as they come in. I'm not going to be canning these. And we only do 2 varieties. So we do large cherry and then purple plum cherry over there. Also in here I had some more zucchinis, and like the others, they got the borer, so I pulled the plant out. I did get a good harvest prior to that though. Over here I had beets. I've already harvested all of them, but I did a second sowing. So hopefully we get enough of a harvest before frost hits. And now going on to the other side, I did carrots along here and I've been harvesting those. I think there's still some left. I don't know what that is. It doesn't really look like a carrot, but we'll see what it does. Some more carrots over here, and I did have a bunch of lettuce in this section, but of course I've picked all of that. This garden has the rhubarb. This plant is doing very well. Not so much this one, and I'm wondering if it's maybe getting shaded out by this dogwood plant, which has grown a lot this year. This whole branch is new growth, and we've been talking about maybe just transplanting it or just cutting it down because it doesn't need to be here. So the rhubarb's doing its thing. I've got some dill that grew too fast, I guess, and toppled over, I'm not sure, but I'm just gonna leave it. Behind there are some marigolds, and that was a yarrow plant, I believe, but I don't think it survived transplant. I've got my little grouping of echinacea over here, which is doing nicely. And then in this section, I planted some calendula, and so far I've got one plant, so not too bad. Let's go over to the Swedish pea planter. You know, if you've been on my channel for a while, that I like to keep it real with you guys. So what you're going to see is a pretty overgrown, weed-filled garden, but this is real life. Everything isn't always social media perfect, YouTube perfect, and I really wanted to make this look nice before I filmed, but it's been terrible for allergies. So I'm lucky to even be outside right now without breaking into a sneezing fit. All right, are you ready to see this shrubby garden? Can you even really tell what's growing? So it's Swedish peas. I've talked about these before. A friend sent them to me from Sweden and they're great. I've just been leaving them on the plant to get dried out because I will just dehydrate them anyways and then rehydrate for the winter when we want to eat them. So I did do some more plants or some more seeds where these sticks are, but I don't think they've germinated yet. It was just kind of a late sowing. If you hear any weird noises in the background, it's my chickens. I don't know what they're doing. Over here is supposed to be marigold and cabbage. I think I might have already pulled out all the cabbage because, oh no, they're still there. This is all it is. It's so tiny and I don't know why. The soil's okay, it gets a lot of water, gets a lot of light. I don't know. It is what it is. Also in this garden, you might have remembered in my previous garden update video, I was just so excited about all of my marigold that was sprouting because I sowed a ton of the seeds in every garden. Turns out most of the marigold in here was actually ragweed, which is what I am terribly allergic to. But when they're small, they look very similar. So I had my husband just pull them all out because they make me sneeze like crazy. But now I definitely have some marigolds growing here. Let's go to this garden. Again, it's shrubby, it's overgrown. It looks rough, but this is real life. So this brick pile is just holding up a dill plant that got knocked over when we had our windows replaced, and then it started growing crookedly because I didn't pick it up in time. So I'm trying to get it just off the grass so it's propped up a bit. And behind there we have some marigold and calendula. I always dehydrate the calendula for tea in the winter, but I've decided to just let them all go to seed because I sowed all of the seeds I had this year and I want to build up that seed stockpile again. There's more marigold over here. Got a bunch of nice herbs over here and some echinacea. I believe this is oregano. I get it wrong almost every time, but I'm pretty sure it's oregano. We did have some corn growing in here. I think I talked about that in my previous video. We planted some popping corn and we put it here just away from the rest of the regular corn because we didn't want it to cross-contaminate when it was in pollen. But even though they're looking pretty good, small but good, there's no cobs on them. Maybe that's one, I'm not sure, but I'm not very confident we'll actually get a harvest this year. Lesson learned, start the seeds earlier next year. Moving along, we've got some more corn, some parsley that is very, very overgrown. That's just all weeds down there, and I've got some nice sunflowers. I think these sunflowers I grew last year as well, and if I'm not mistaken, someone just gave the seeds to me. She got them as a wedding favor and didn't want to grow them or didn't have the space to grow them, so she gave them to me. Some more corn. I did have a big creeping thyme plant here, and I ended up having to pull it out because it, for some reason, just attracts flies, which is really gross. And I didn't really want that so close to the house, so I moved it to another part of the yard. Over here, for some reason, this section of garden is terrible. The soil is so dry, nothing really grows except weeds. And I'm not really sure why, but I've got some things going here. I have a teeny tiny little marigold that I don't think is gonna make it. I've got some catnip over there, a few calendula plants that haven't quite blossomed yet. I think that tufty thing might be spearmint, but I'm not sure. And then I've just got some miscellaneous weeds that I don't want to be there.
Thank you for watching this tour of my harvest gardens. I think maybe I should clarify in case this is the first time you've seen these videos from me. I've got two separate garden spaces, one that is dedicated for things that we'll pick and eat fresh, and then I've got a separate garden space where I grow things just for the sake of preserving them to eat over the winter. Now, I might end up preserving some of the things from the harvest garden. Since we've been getting so many tomatoes this year, we aren't able to stay on top of eating all of them fresh. So I definitely put some of those into jars for use later. But the goal with the harvest garden is that we will primarily eat those things fresh and then preserve the surplus. If you enjoyed this video, I invite you to take a look around at some of the other videos here on my channel. And if you like what you see, I hope that you consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.